Live from the City of Angels Sunday morning, breaking box office. One of the worst weekends we have seen post-pandemic. This is bad for any time ever in the history of movies when you have the number one film coming in at just $8.7 million. Guys, this is as bad as it gets for Hollywood. We were told that 2025 was going to be redemption for theaters after a very weak 2024. Certainly, from a creative standpoint, some of the worst films that I've had to sit through. Also struggles box office wise. But so far this year, we are in a really bad place. I mean, this is really as bad as it gets, as I said multiple times here this morning. Have a look here. This is the total here at 8.7 million for Novocaine. And you can see Deadline with the lowest grossing weekend of 2025 to date. And it's not going to get a hell of a lot better next weekend. Yes, Snow White's going to come in and do okay, but, right, we all know there's a lot of controversy around that film. I might have a chance to see it coming up tomorrow. Either way, the reality is Disney's brand has lost its luster, no question. So even if this is a little bit of a fix next weekend with, let's say, 50 plus million, maybe we get to 75, will that film be able to stay intact over the long haul and make cash and help theaters? Because I'll tell you, I went last night to see Opus. We'll talk about that tonight on the Sunday Evening Spectacular. And I'm here to tell you that it was dead. I mean, nobody in the theaters. And this is in Burbank. Imagine what it's like in Dayton, right? I mean, this is movie-going central. And yet here we are with this wretched weekend. Here you go. Again, Variety saying the same thing. Terrible, 8.7 million. Let's go to the Paramount Pictures email, and we can get the details on this. 8.7 stateside, 1.8 million overseas, 10.5 million total worldwide debut on this. I did not see Novocaine. I don't want to see it. We've only seen this thing 100 times, right? I mean, how many times have we watched this version of a beta male gets pissed and then goes and destroys all the bad guys? Slaughters them. Look, we didn't expect him to be an assassin, yet here he is, a killing machine. You know, I don't have any interest. I just don't. But 8.7 million. I had this at 8. It went a little higher, but I'll take my number. That's right there within 700,000. I figured this wouldn't do that well. It didn't. Audience demos, 59% male, 41% female. 55% 18 to 34. So at least you've got the younger audience that seems to be into Jack Quaid, sort of, right? I mean, it's not like some big debut where you can say the ushering in of a new global superstar in Jack Quaid. No, but at least the demos say the young people seem to have some idea who this dude is. I mean, he plays the same person in every role, right? I mean, we know that for most of these things. Most of these movies are just like that. The actor plays a version of themselves. It's rare that you have somebody, Daniel Day-Lewis, right? The rare that will be able to step outside and do something really funky. Johnny Depp can. I mean, he's so weird, right? Oh, I know, Johnny Depp. But we're talking about the talent, right? Novocaine over-indexed in the western and south central U.S., over-indexed in the Midwest and Southeast, under-indexed in the Northeast. I mean, at this number, I'd say it all under-indexed. But they're trying to spin. 35% of box office came from PLF, 19%, Dolby 12%, motion seats 4%. So yeah, we're in trouble, right? Big time trouble. But so is Warner Brothers with Mickey 17. This film is now at just $33 million stateside, down 60% weekend to weekend. The total worldwide cume right now, 90.5. Budget, 118. Call it 120. Somewhere in that range. That means to be profitable, we need to be right around 300 million, and we're at 90.5. It's going to lose them their ass. By the way, I just saw Justine Bateman, who all of a sudden seems to be, knowledgeable in everything, right? When did she become, right, the know-all sage of Hollywood? She said Mickey 17's a good film, and if it weren't for theatrical window, Justine, listen, man, you're going to come into this space and start spouting a bunch of shit. You better know that Mickey 17 is garbage. I mean, that alone is enough to destroy the brand. But keep going, Justine. You know everything, clearly, okay? And we've only been talking about Windows forever. Thanks for joining that conversation a year late. Appreciate you coming in with that information. Now we can all say it's happening. Thank you, Osage Justine Bateman, who I believe was a guest on Film Threat. Perfect, right? Perfect combination there. So we look here at this, and it's just other than Korea. And you guys know that's Bong's home country, so of course it's going to go bonkers there. 17.9 million. Number one by far when you look at these countries. UK 5.8, France 5.3, Germany 2.8, Mexico 2.5, Australia 2.3, and on and on. But yeah, if Korea gets taken out of this, we are really going lower. But I mean, we're already in huge trouble. Again, as I mentioned, with this down 60% weekend to weekend, and it really needed to come in at a budget at 75. And, you know, listen, we talked about this when Mickey 17 bowed, and I had a chance to see this thing. And I said, how do you greenlight this at 118 if you're Warner Brothers, this script? You can't. You just don't. I don't care if Bong's coming off 17 Parasites with 77 Oscar wins. You're not getting this budget for this film. No way. I mean, I like Pattinson. I think that's a start, but let's get this thing down to 75. I need you to cut 50 million out of the budget. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. You can take it to A24. They'll probably say, yes, they just did Beau is Afraid, so they're pretty dumb. So let's go ahead and maybe have that happen. But you see, this is the problem when these executives, and they're not very bright, right? I mean, these creatives are not the most talented and certainly the most available to recognize what works and what doesn't. Clearly, because this movie should never have been made at this budget. And when you watch it, it's even more painful to stomach. Someone said, well, why are you so worried? Because these movies are destroying Hollywood. That's why. You understand? When you make a Mickey 17 and people go to see it, they go, I'm not going to the movies anytime in the near future. Okay? It's that bad. This isn't gray. There's no gray area here. We're not playing gray area with this film. It's an abomination. Okay? Especially on the back end. That dinner scene's one of the worst things I ever had to suffer through. That's when I got up and went to the back. The other guy next to me would get up and left. Okay? There's a reason. Because it's unwatchable. And that's why it matters. That's why I rail against these budgets. Because now you're not going to get a film that we might have gotten if they would have said no to Bong and made something cooler and better and cheaper. Because ultimately the budget does matter. Okay, guys? It just does. So this is really bad for Warner Brothers. They've had a really nasty streak. You go back to Joker. Obviously, what else was in there? What was the one where they get locked up in the concert venue? The one I already forgot the title. These movies are so forgettable at this point. The Watchers was bad. Obviously, we know Horizon. But these are, kind of films that are going to bury a entire studio. Black Bag's number 3, even though it really is it's really like 100,000 off. I have a feeling Warner Brothers slapped a 0.1 on this to get number 2. Black Bag's at 7.5. Black Bag is okay, right? We had that discussion back on Thursday night. It's okay, not great. Top 10's right in front of you. I'll get to that in a minute. But this is a film that I believe had a $50 million price tag. So they're going to lose money on Black Bag. Again, I wouldn't greenlight this at $50 million for the script. It feels like something that belongs on Netflix, Amazon, Apple. It's a streaming kind of thing. It has no cinematic value whatsoever. None. It really doesn't. Doesn't look good. He's shooting with like video cameras. Looks like an iPhone. It just doesn't have the luster, doesn't have the aesthetic that you're looking for. And then the film is convoluted. It's an hour and a half, really needs to tell the story it wants to tell. It needs to be 2 hours. And I don't want to sit through 2 hours. I didn't want to sit through 90. That's why we gave it a C at best. But Black Bag is going to lose a lot of money for Focus / Universal. Universal owns Focus, as you guys know. Captain America, $5.5 million to the Disney email. And we get the total global on this at $389. Now, this is not going to get to 400 million. Not that I can see. If it does, it's going to barely get there. Disney will put its own money. Here we go. It's 400 million, everybody. It's still going to lose them their ass. As you guys know, with the budget and everything, you got to be up at 600 million, I believe. Somewhere in that area to be profitable. We're not going to come close. And Marvel's in trouble. Here's Quantumania in weekend number 5, 462. So we're minus 80 million versus Quantumania film that everyone said was one of the worst performing Marvel films. And then you have this. And this is the worst time for this. because they're trying to build to Secret Wars, to Avengers, to whatever they got next. I mean, you know how I feel about comic book movies at this point. But if you have a film like this come out and do very little and really not be well received at all, okay, very mid at best, then you are in trouble, and then you have to have Thunderbolts, or as we like to call it, say Thundercocks. It is what it is, man. I'll call it what I want, okay? Because I'm trying to make the film interesting. Thunderbolts, boring. The whole thing just, I'm done with these films, man. And then here's what I love about it. Marvel's trying to make Thunderbolts, trying to make it this non-Marvel movie. Hey, it's like an A24 movie. Have you guys seen that? We'll pull some of those quotes up tonight, like Florence Pugh, because they're so desperate to get away from the stank of the MCU right now. It's that bad. Oh, 100%. 100%. Let's see if we got the numbers here for the Looney Tunes movie. I believe it came in around 3.1. I don't know if we have the official number on that, but I know The Last Supper was at 2.8. These were the other new films this weekend. The one I haven't talked about is Opus, which I actually didn't hate. Let me tell you, for a movie from A24 at this point, I think Opus is actually pretty solid. The problem is we'll talk about it tonight. Opus had the opportunity to be really good. And I think you have a director who's not really ready for prime time. It's like a second movie. And when you don't have a director who's super skilled and mega talented and mega experienced, when you try to pull off a movie like Opus, you can't. And we go back to Promising Young Woman. One of the problems with that film is Emerald wasn't ready for that film. That film's very difficult tonally to tell. Opus has a lot going on, and it feels like slightly unfinished, like we've got to go back in, rewrite some of this, re-edit. I need a more dynamic-looking film. But Opus bombed. Okay, I'm doing the evaluation now. Opus bombed at $570-some-odd per theater. You know what's bad for theaters when A24 movies are empty at Burbank 16. Last night, I went to see this thing, 6 o'clock on a Saturday. There were probably 15 people in this gigantic theater to watch Opus. In the past, A24 movies on their own were able to pull a crowd because this is Hollywood. There's no more ArcLight. It's not coming back. It's never coming back. AMC Burbank is the new ArcLight, and no one's there. So A24, we talked about how it's a dead brand. I know that's a little strong. We go back, look at that stream when I buried A24. Because of their lack of creative control and quality control on these films, they're giving us trash such as The Front Room, Tuesday. These films will wreck a brand very quickly. Your brand is everything, right? I mean, I'm not suggesting this channel is the best channel ever. Okay, I'm not doing it. But here's what I'm going to tell you. We're brand. We're on brand almost all the time, right? It's not, A24 used to be a brand that stood for a certain type and feel. And now you're getting stuff that you're wondering what's going on here. Opus feels much more like an old school A24 film. Unfortunately, just not as good as they used to be. And I just think it goes back to the people in charge, the writers, directors. There's a lot of people that are working that maybe shouldn't be. I think with Opus, you take this film and you give it to a good director. And I think there's an element, no question, of virtue signaling here. And we'll talk about that here tonight because, remember, when you're greenlighting a film, you're not greenlighting who the director is from a racial standpoint, from a sex standpoint. You're greenlighting it based on the talent of that director, not based on what box they check, not based on who they know. Are you good? If you're not quite ready, I'm going to take this film out of your hands. I'm going to give this to someone who has proven themselves repeatedly. And that's the issue. You have to be ready for prime time. And if you're not ready for prime time, you're going to suffer. We're going to suffer a little bit. And Opus could have been great. It's not. Top 10. Here, I literally just did the entire... I wasn't even going to do the entire thing. That's basically what I think about Opus. It's disappointing. I don't like watching movies like that because you're like, these are the ones that hurt. Could have been good. Could have been great, I should say. I think it's pretty solid how it is. Novocaine, number one, 8.7 million. Black Bag, 7.5. Mickey, Mickey 17 is at 7.5, so they have it at 2 and 3. Like I said, they're basically tied. Black Bag and Mickey 17 down 60%. Not good. I thought it would drop 70 plus because Mickey 17's an absolute. Oh, I'm gonna watch it. It's so awful. It's so awful. Captain America: Brave New World is number 4. Again, not even at 400 million. Looney Tunes, they have at 3.17, so maybe that number came in. That gives it number 5. Last Supper, 2.8. Paddington Peru, 2.7. Dogman, 2.5. Monkey, 2.5. Only 35 million on that film. I mean, that's profitable. Movie's bad. Man, Monkey's bad. Mickey 17. This year's been one of the worst. That's why Opus stands out and go, oh, I didn't hate this. This is actually okay. There's some things. Last Breath with 18.5 million total on that. And then I mentioned Opus at 570 some odd dollars per location. That's bad. All right, guys, if you got a comment for me, I'll read them afterwards. I got to roll. I'm off to the beach, play some volleyball here. Back tonight to talk about the state of Hollywood disaster right now because of the lack of appetizing options in the marketplace, and that's trouble for all of us. That's why the budget of 118 matters for Mickey 17, my friend out there, because it spells doom for future projects that we're not going to get now that you just greenlit a film that's going to lose you hundreds of millions of dollars. Jobs will be lost. That's why the budget matters. Thanks for being here live from the City of Angels. We'll see you back here tonight for the Sunday Evening Spectacular.